the names of what we call the names of Allah, the most beautiful names, the 99 names, they describe the nur of imamah. So not only is this idea not shirk, this is actually ontological tawheed. This is like real tawheed. Every prophet, every major prophet was spiritually trained and initiated by the imam of their time. The prophets, before they became prophets, they had to enter this hierarchy, and they started out at the bottom. A quick question: do imams move through the ranks? No, the imams do not move through the ranks. The imams are always they are born into the world at number one. The Ismaili sources are unanimous on this point. The imam at the time of Prophet Muhammad was Hazrat Abu Talib. In one of the qasidas sung during the tradition of religious ceremonies of Mado, so this is a Central Asian Ismaili tradition, Pamiri tradition, the light of Abu Talib is described as the source of the creation of the entire universe. If there was not the light of Abu Talib, Adam, the universe, and heaven would not have existed. Muhammad was first trained by Zayd ibn Amr. So first he was trained by Ubay ibn Ka'b, who was the guy. Then he was trained by a Hujjah, Zayd ibn Amr. And then he moved up to Khadija. He was Khadija's disciple. She undertook his spiritual training. But eventually, Prophet Muhammad becomes higher than Khadija. He reaches the same rank as her, and Khadija submits to him. And that's when Muhammad becomes this great prophet. There was certainly, if I may use the word, a conspiracy on behalf of the Imam and the Dawah to have Prophet Muhammad become a prophet. The Ismaili view of Quranic revelation is very, very different from the idea that the Quran is the literal word of God. In fact, the Ismailis don't believe that. So this is what the Imam says, right? Imam al-Muiz explains what happened. The prophet comes up with oral linguistic expressions. And it says the Arabic, the Quran, here it says the Quran that's constructed according to the light is the speech of the messenger. The Quran is actually Muhammad's words. It's not the direct word of God. And this is the idea that the Imam is the speaking book of God, and the Quran as a text is the silent book. The speaking Quran is greater in authority than the silent Quran. The speaking Quran overrides the silent Quran. So the ta'lim and the ta'wil of the Imam takes priority over what the Quran says, literally speaking. There is no fallible scholarly interpretation by the Imam because the Imam is divinely inspired like the Prophet. So the Imam changes the Sharia. He can change the religious practices. Now, if somebody says, but no, the Quran is the word of God, the Imam is just an interpreter. Again, that is not our view. The Imam is not just an interpreter of the word of God. The Imam is the word of God. In Ismaili thought, Angel Gabriel is just a symbolic term for the divine light that flows from the speech of God, which is Nurani speech of God to the prophet or the Imam. So Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah has said that Socrates was a prophet, a messenger of God when he was in Greece. So Socrates experienced this nur, but Socrates expressed it as this very, very unique form of what we call Socratic philosophy. So Adam is not the first man, according to these Ismaili thinkers. This Adam lived 6,000 years ago, but the Ismailis believe that there were humans before that, before Adam. Imran is a name of Abu Talib. So when the Quran says that Allah in Surah 333, 34, Allah chose Adam, Noah, the progeny of Ibrahim, and the progeny of Imran, that Imran in the Ismaili interpretations refers to Abu Talib. If you were to correlate the belief in the return of Jesus, that is a symbolic statement. It's a symbolic idea. And the Hujjah of the Qayyim would be the return of Jesus. Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah ranks as the 49th Imam, and that would mean Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah is the Hujjah of the Qayyim. The Hujjah of the Qayyim would be the return of Jesus. So from the whole period of Adam to the end of the period of Muhammad, you have all these prophets and Imams. The Hujjah of the Qayyim will be greater than them, than all of them. When the Prophet said he was shown Laylatul Qadr, he saw this Imam. He saw Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah. So remember this hadith. Prophet Muhammad said, I was shown Laylatul Qadr, but I was caused to forget it. And then the Prophet says, I was shown, when the Prophet saw Laylatul Qadr, the Prophet was prostrating to it or him. So you see, the Hujjah of the Qayyim, the Prophet Muhammad saw him. The Prophet Muhammad had a vision of the Hujjah of the Qayyim, and that was such a powerful vision that the Prophet Muhammad bowed down to this person. That's how great the Hujjah of the Qayyim actually is. The Nizari Ismailis are no longer required to pray namaz 5 times a day. They're no longer required to fast in Ramadan. They're no longer required to perform the ritual washing. They're no longer required to go all the way to Mecca to perform Hajj. In the Ismaili practice today, dua and the sond are mandatory. Fasting in Ramadan is not mandatory, it's optional. Because at the end of the day, for us, it's about the authority of the Imam. We follow the guidance of the Imam. If the Imam tomorrow says fast in Ramadan, everybody's going to fast in Ramadan, or at least try to. If the Imam says pray 5 times a day, we will pray 5 times a day. Islam has 7 pillars, not 5 pillars. The highest and first pillar being walaya. Walaya is love, devotion, and obedience to the Imam of the time. That is the first pillar. The world cannot exist without an Imam. There has to be an Imam at every time. There is an Imam present in the world at all times. The names of Allah do not belong to God's essence. They belong at the level of the Nur of Imamat. Hazrat Imam does not need to practice any sort of prayer. Humans, and this is not just Ismailis, but all humans can only attain to the recognition, the marifah of God, of He who is above all else, through the Nur of Imamat, right? Intellect is aql, and the Nur of Imamat is aql-e-kul. What we call the Nur of Imamat, or the universal intellect, conceptually, it corresponds to what Christians call the Son of God.